What's going on, good people? Avid Critchlow here, and today I want to give you guys a few tips on reducing stomach fat. All right, look, I understand that the stomach area is probably one of the most troublesome areas to get results. All right, when it comes to getting in shape and getting your body together. All right, the stomach is like the hardest area to gain control of. All right, and for different reasons. All right, and wrapped up into some of these tips are some of the reasons that people struggle with the midsection area so much. All right, even me, there was one time I really struggled on figuring out, how do I actually get my midsection under control, right? It just seemed like my stomach area was just out of control, right? And just really hard to gain control of, right? Because I was able to gain control over other parts of my body, right? But my stomach area just seemed to be so stubborn, right? And I couldn't really figure out what I needed to do in order to get this area under control. And what I did was I just took some time and I really went into some research and studying of the midsection and the stomach area and stuff like that. And because I really wanted to find out, how does getting your stomach in shape works? What's the scientific reasons behind how difficult it is to get this area under control, right? So I just went into some studies. I started studying and researching and stuff like that. And I just went on a few weeks of just deep study and stuff, and sure enough, it worked, right? I was able to if I should say, crack the code on what it takes to get this area under control. So what I did was I used the scientific and medical information that I gathered, and I just came up with this formula that actually worked, right? And that is actually where my book was birthed from, that experience, right? Under your belly bulge, right? That's where the book actually came from. And in the book, I share a lot of the information that I was able to gather and just my whole experience, going through the experience of coming from not being able to figure out how to get my stomach down to actually doing it. One of the things that you have to understand is whenever you're gaining weight, right? Whenever you're putting on weight, of course it's gradual. It's a gradual process, all right? We eat too much and whatever, and we just keep blowing up and we keep getting bigger. And what we really don't realize or pay attention to is the fact that when you're gaining weight or when you start putting on weight, the first area to start seeing that weight is the stomach, right? That's the first area that you start gaining weight in, the stomach area, all right? So now, as you start getting bigger, what happens is your stomach is already leading the way, right? So what that means is, as you get bigger, your stomach will get even bigger, right? That's what happens, all right? For whatever reasons, that's the first place that fat is deposited, right? In the stomach area, right? And it's called visceral fat, all right? So let's keep that in mind, right? Because I'm trying to kind of show you something here, all right? So this is the first area that starts to grow when you start putting on weight, right? And as you get bigger, as I mentioned earlier, the stomach gets bigger. So now you're trying to lose weight, right? And you go on a diet or whatever measures you're taking to lose weight, right? You start exercising, you start dieting and stuff, and you start losing the weight, right? You're doing well, you're losing the weight. But what you're starting to notice is that even though you have lost the weight, your stomach still seems to be lagging behind, right? But guess what? If you think about the concept of your stomach starting first and leading the way, so now you're trying to reverse the process, all right? It's kind of natural for the area that had most of that fat to be the last area to respond. And that's all that's happening, all right? It's just that the stomach was leading the way when you gain the weight. So now that you're losing the weight, the stomach is going to be the last area for you to drop off that weight. So anyway, what I want to do today is I want to give you guys, now I have 10 tips in my hand right now, and I want to just go through maybe like 5 of these tips, all right, and give you guys 5 tips on what you can do to fight against this stubborn area of the body, which is the midsection. All right, so let's jump into the first tip, and let me just mention this as well. All right, now for some of you guys, you may not necessarily want to develop a six-pack, all right? And that's fine, right? For some of you guys, you're just trying to get your stomach down and get it under control, all right? And let me just add this in there as well, right? Because a lot of people think, there are people who actually think that you need to have a six-pack in order to be in good condition physically and in good health. And nothing could be further from the truth, all right? You don't actually need to have a six-pack to be in good health, all right? The only thing you need to do is get your stomach under control and get your stomach down. And if that's where you choose to let it go, you know what I'm saying, that's fine. You know, if you decide you want to develop a six-pack and you decide you want a really chiseled midsection, that's all well and good as well, all right? So the reason I mention that is to say that this information is going to work for you regardless of which one you're trying to do. If you're trying to develop a six-pack or if you're just trying to get your stomach down and under control. All right, so I just wanted to mention that before we move any further. All right, for men, all right, get your body fat percentage down to around 10%, all right? And for women, around 18%, all right? Only then can you start to develop your abs, all right? Now, why is this? Okay, if as a male, if your body fat percentage is above 10%, let's say anywhere in the range of 15, 20% on up, what's happening is you still have too much fat on your body, especially in the midsection area, to actually see the muscle, all right, in your ab area, all right? So what has to happen is you still need to burn off some of that fat in order to actually start seeing the muscle from the work that you're putting in, all right? So again, men, if you are higher than 10% body fat, it's going to be really hard for you to see really good definition in the midsection area. And for women, if you're above 18%, it's going to be hard to see it. So if you're trying to really see your definition in the midsection, for men, get your body fat percentage around 10 and women around 18%. And from that point and below is where you're going to really start seeing some good definition in the midsection area. All right, so let's move on to tip number 2. Okay, so tip number 2, right? And this tip again is specifically for if you are trying to really tighten up and develop your midsection. All right. So what a lot of people don't realize is in order for you to really maximize on the midsection and really develop it just in the same way you develop the rest of your body, you have to hit your midsection as often as possible. All right. And let me just read what I have here. It says, to develop your abs faster than average, hit those abs every time you hit the gym. All right. Don't worry about overtraining your abs. Just use proper form hit your abs at least 3 times a week, and you'll be on your way. All right. So, in essence, don't focus on having an ab day. You know, like how we do this thing where we have a chest day. You know, Monday's International Chest Day, and then Tuesday might be back and buys, and Wednesday it might be legs, and Thursday and so on and so forth. All right, we have these things where we work a body part each day. And if you're really trying to maximize on an area of your body, right, and really trying to see some growth, you have to hit it as often as possible. I think what happens is a lot of times we overemphasize the overtraining thing, even though that's possible, but you still have to understand how it works. All right. So you can't just be worried about overtraining and not be worried about undertraining, because undertraining is just as real as overtraining. All right. And what I've discovered is the stomach area is one of those areas, or is one of the main areas that people seem to undertrain. All right. So for you to really develop your midsection and your stomach, you have to work it more than once per week. And this is where people often make an error or make a mistake, right? They have like an ab day. So their ab day might be Tuesday, or your ab day might be Thursday. So we have these days that we set aside to work these body parts. And what happens is, 4 months go by, 6 months go by, and we're still not seeing any meaningful results in these areas, and we're trying to figure out why it's not working. It's not that it's not working, all right? It's our approach. So what you're going to need to do is, to be honest with you, you can actually hit your abs every single day. So this is my advice to you, right? Hit your midsection every time you hit the gym. And don't just work on your abs once per week, all right? Hit it at least, I would say, minimum 3 days a week, all right? And that's where you're really going to start seeing some improvement. If you're at the point right now where you actually don't have any definition in the midsection and you're doing anything less than 3 days a week, you're not actually going to see any results. And that's the honest truth. All right. So you have to hit it at least 3 days a week. The more, the merrier. So if you can hit it 4 or 5 days, or as often as you work out, it's even better. And again, as I mentioned here, don't worry about overtraining the midsection, right? You're not going to overtrain it, all right? Just make sure that you use proper form, all right? And you're not going to risk injury either. You can, to be honest with you, you can work a body part once a month and still risk injury if you don't use proper form. The most important thing is use proper form. All right. And another thing I will advise is, and this information is in my book as well, if you're going to hit your midsection every single day, try to focus on body resistance movements and not so much use too much weights. You see what I'm saying? So if you're doing crunches, right, don't hold a plate against your chest and do your crunches. Just do free crunches, all right? And do a lot of leg lifts and stuff like that, but mostly focus on body weight resistance exercises if you're going to do it every single day. It's going to be more effective, and you're going to be less likely to strain or injure yourself. All right. So again, don't have an ab day. Hit your abs every time you hit the gym. Let's move on to tip number 3. Okay. So tip number 3 is keep your midsection tight, even if you're not actually working your midsection. All right. A lot of people fail to implement this technique. But this is a very important technique, all right? If you're working back, if you're working doing tricep pull downs, right? There are certain exercises that lend themselves to working the midsection at the same time more than others. All right. And you just have to kind of figure out which exercises help you to engage the midsection a lot more. All right. So, for instance, you're doing tricep pull downs. That's an opportunity to keep this area tight, right? And engage the midsection area, right? I mean, you're doing side raises, all right? Lateral raises, all right? Front raises. All these exercises are opportunities to keep the midsection tight and engaged while you work on these other body parts. And this is another very effective technique that actually works. So, instead of just, let's say you're doing lateral raises, instead of only focusing on the arms and the shoulders, make sure that you keep the midsection tight and engaged, all right? And that's gonna actually work your midsection while you work on these other body parts, all right? So that's another very important technique and tip that you're going to have to practice if you really want to see any type of improvement in the midsection area. All right. So again, keep the midsection engaged even when you're doing other exercises. All right. So that's tip number 3. So let's move on to tip number 4. Okay. So tip number 4. Look, if I tell you to eat less processed foods, that's gonna kind of be a given, right? And that's gonna be obvious, especially if you're already on a health and fitness journey. You probably already, have that area under control. And what I mean is, limiting processed foods and stuff like that. However, what goes along with that is increasing your intake of fruits and vegetables. So again, it's not just about decreasing, these types of mucus producing foods, these foods that produce a lot of mucus in your system, which is going to make it hard for your body to burn off the stomach fat. But you're going to have to increase foods, right, that's high in fiber and stuff that's going to help to burn off the fat in this midsection area. All right. So increase your intake of these types of foods, right? And you could do it, through even smoothies, right? Juices and stuff like that. All right. Just increase your intake and be mindful of it. And I know some people, you may not necessarily like a lot of vegetables and stuff like that. Some of you probably don't eat a lot of fruits and stuff, even though you're on a health and fitness journey. You're going to have to kind of like change that attitude a little bit. And you're going to have to include a lot more of these foods. And there's a wide variety of foods out there, right, that you can choose from. So I guarantee you can find something that you like. All right. You may not like pomegranate, but you may like oranges. You know what I'm saying? You may like pineapples and stuff like that. So you can definitely find foods that's going to work well with your taste buds. All right. So again, decrease your intake of these processed foods, but also increase your intake of foods that are rich in nutrients and rich in fiber. Especially, you're going to have to really increase your fiber intake, all right, in order to help you to lose a lot of this fat in the stomach area. All right, so let's move on to tip number 5. Okay, so we are down to tip number 5, our final tip for today. All right, and this one is an interesting one. All right, so you have worked hard and you have lost the weight all over, right? And you just can't seem to get rid of the stomach. All right, you're doing well. All right, you're working out, you're doing everything under the sun, you know what I'm saying, to try to get rid of this stomach area, and you just can't. All right. So as we all know by now, right, the liver is the organ that's responsible for burning off and expelling fat from the body, all right, from the stomach area and just from the body in general. Now, if the liver isn't working efficiently, which happens more often than not. If you think about it, we're eating all this food and, a lot of processed foods and stuff like that. And sometimes our liver becomes backed up with toxins, all right? And what happens is when that happens, your liver may not be performing optimally. You're going to have to focus on certain foods that helps in this process. You're going to have to increase the intake of these specific foods that help to, flush the liver, or at least helps the liver with the process of detoxing the body. All right. So very important. All right. If you're finding that you're not actually able to burn off just that last bit of fat in the stomach area, this just might be one of the issues. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. If you're looking at this video on Instagram, go ahead and connect with me on YouTube at Avid Critchlow Official. If you're looking at this video on YouTube, you can go ahead and connect with me on Instagram at Avid Critchlow Fitness. I want to thank you guys for tuning in once again. And also go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section. All right. Let me know how these videos are helping you guys. Again, go ahead and like, subscribe to my channel. All right. So that you can keep up with me, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.